Robert Hansen, famous trader, FBI.
Yep.
One of the things, he barely got paid. This dude threw his life and career away and got tons of people killed for like, I can't even remember, but it was a freaking pittance. It's like jack squat. It was something you would never, dude couldn't even buy a house with the money. I mean, it was that crappy. So the idea is he did it for ego. But this wasn't a public-facing thing. He did it for ego from what? Like his Russian handlers telling him how he was a smart boy? No, I don't really understand.
He did it because the ego was himself. He felt like the FBI had rejected his ideas. Yeah. They had marginalized his career, blah, 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 blah. So he wanted to get back at the FBI. When the Soviets came in, they were like, hey, we know how you can get back at the FBI. You can spy and give us the secrets that help us. And then we know you are one of the best. And you're going to be operating right under their nose. So how, and like that shows their incompetence. They can't even catch the person. And then as he was promoted to being the head of the CI division, looking for a Russian mole, who was him, it just magnified and amplified that ego, right? That's how it works. Because, and you know, what's really interesting is because he was so effective and understood how to reverse engineer a counterintelligence operation, he knew if they paid him too much, it would look suspicious. And then people would be turned on to that suspicion. So instead, he made sure that he was paid a very small amount, and then he would be able to take the money and get away with it, which just further kind of stroked his ego about how good he was.
Yeah, he just died in a Supermax. Rest in piss. The guy got so many people killed. How do you elicit what will motivate people in the first place? Like, look, maybe you know, look, this guy is a simpleton. We can pay him. He's going to look cool, the end. Or if you're like, this guy is immune to money. He doesn't care about that. He just wants to make sure that his particular brand of, I don't know, fundamentalism is validated. Whatever. How do you elicit this kind of thing from the target?
So you're using the term elicit, which is a very specific term. For me, the word elicit or elicitation is an actual term. It's a skill. So I'm going to take it down that road because it's a very specific skill. What you're talking about is how are you able to assess a person's motivations by meeting with them. That's how I would rephrase your question.
Sure, yeah.
And then using the skills of elicitation are just one of the ways that you would assess that person. So let's start with something simple, right? So physical environment is the simplest way. Just by looking around this room, and the camera that's on you is probably the best camera to actually show it, I can see that you have the pictures of your children on the back wall.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm using the best camera. I was like, actually,
I can see that your home alarm system has pictures of your children.
Yeah.
Like, it's very clear to me that you are motivated, that there's an element of pride and motivation for your children and your family and your status as a father. Just because in this very modern, beautiful home where nothing is really on most of the walls, there's like 12 paintings by kids right over there.
That's right.
So your environment tells you a lot of what you need to know about the person. So that's before you even ask them a question. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to start eliciting information from them by asking them questions, and you want to try to focus your questions on things that will make them feel. Remember how we said earlier, if you want to tell if someone's lying, you ask feeling questions?
Right.
You ask feeling-based questions, right? So you say something like, I see that you have an animal fan in your family.
Yeah.
That emotional response right there just validated for me that you do, and you know who it is, and right now in your mind, you're picturing whoever that child is.
That's right.
Right? Well, now you're associating me with that child and you're associating the fact that I noticed enough to care.
There's a couple animal fans. The giraffe is my personal favorite. It's all neck. That thing would fall over in real life. I don't know if that's in the shot. Maybe it is. If not, we'll have to take one and place it in the YouTube video.
But my point is, that's how you start to elicit.
Right.
So you start from the environment. We call it macro to micro. I see the environment as a macro objective. I then pull something from the environment and ask a question that pertains to that specific macro item, and then I get a micro response. I get a smile, I get laughter, I get you volunteering information. I assumed only one child. You just told me that you have a couple. Well, you only have 2 children.
Right.
So now you just told me without me asking that you have 2 children who like animals. That is elicitation. I didn't ask you. You volunteered that. And that was just because of us talking about the environment.
Yeah, talking for a living and getting people to talk for a living are very, well, I wish most hosts did this, but it's sort of two sides of the same coin. And people they want to tell you things. That's why I was wondering, if you really do even need to elicit things from people, or if you can just wind them up and let them go.
You can't wind up everybody. That's the thing. You have to assess them to know how to even get them talking. I guarantee you've had interviews here where it was like pulling teeth out of them.
Oh, for sure.
Talk.
Yeah.
That just shows that not everybody will talk. You have to find something that breaks down their barrier to sharing what's in their head. There are plenty of people out there who want to talk but don't feel comfortable talking. There's also people out there who live so much in their head, they think they're talking when they're really thinking.
Yeah. I've met those people are very difficult to deal with. Very much so. You ever dated anybody like that? It's weird, man.
That's why I have like anybody who dates a true artist. I don't know how they make those relationships work.
It's very difficult. I know exactly what you're talking about. And they'll tell you something and they're using a name and you're like, who's Bob? Oh, it's the person who raised me. Your dad? Just say dad. What are you doing? Like, it's just so, I'm like, are you insane?
Yes, there's a whole running world in their head that you can see in their eyes that it's playing, but it's not coming out. Like,
no.
And they don't even realize they're not communicating well.
I know. As an ENTJ, I cannot deal with that shit. For me, like, looking at like an ISIS guy, for example, they will not shut the hell up about their ideology because it's the only thing they have aside from a rusted out AK-47 and a slave and chained up that they've kidnapped or something in Raqqa, right? So those guys, it seems like there's certain types of people like that are just really easy to read because their motivation, I mean, maybe it's a little bit more veiled, right? Like you think it's their ideology, but really they just want power because they were losers back in the UK. That's why they joined ISIS and ran off to Syria. Like it can be a little bit like that, but it seems like a lot of times the label on the jar is more or less accurate.
I would disagree, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that the label on the jar is the one thing you shouldn't trust.
Really? Okay.
Because to get to the place where somebody represents a larger cause, like think about your typical US soldier, right? If you were to have any private from any military, and like in the United States, if you had a brand new recruit from any of the 4 services, we'll throw the Coast Guard in.
Sure.
If you had any of them sit down in this chair and talk to you, they would all pretty much look the same.
Yeah.
They would probably all have the first response would be almost the same to all of your questions, right? Hoorah, America. America's the best, yada, yada.
That's not what I mean by label. I just mean the way that you detect it. I guess you're right. That phrasing is garbage. You're right. You would, if you were really looking at the label, you would say it's patriotism, but that's not what I would say.
Same thing is true for ISIS.
Yeah.
You look at the label, you think it's all about ideology.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that.
They've been radicalized, and they were radicalized because there was something in their background where they felt powerless, most likely.
Yeah.
But that thing that made them feel powerless could be different.
CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people.
This person's dad was killed by an American soldier. This person's mother was blown up in a bomb by the Israelis. This person's sister may have been raped by, the next door neighbor. Who knows what?
Yeah.
Something led to the chain of events that then ultimately radicalized them. But when you first talk to them, all you're going to get is ideology.
Yeah. No, this makes sense. I wish I could rephrase this because I've talked with a couple of those guys, and it's usually some sort of shame-derived crap. Like, I guess I shouldn't feel guilty because they're in ISIS, so I'll talk shit about them. But a lot of it is kind of like incel-adjacent bullshit, where it's like, oh, you literally were such a loser in life that you felt your best option was to escape to Syria to get purpose, to maybe find a wife, because the only way you were going to find a woman is at the end of a gun. And then to find some sort of like way to feel, it's basically, they're like a mass shooter, except they traveled abroad to do it. That's really what it is. It's almost the same thing.
And I'm sure I'm gonna piss people off, but
good.
But
clicks.
You have to recognize the humanity of even a terrorist.
Yeah.
Like, were they a loser? Were they incel adjacent? Yeah. It's not a stretch to say yes. But you also have to understand they were just people. They were just angry people And we were all just angry people at some point. The difference was when you were there's a literal thing called the radicalization ladder. And we're taught the radicalization ladder specifically so that when we meet a radical, we can reverse engineer the ladder.
Yeah.
It all starts, the very first step in a radicalization ladder is identifying people who feel like they have had an injustice. All of us at some point in our life felt like we had an injustice. Mom, dad, teachers, whatever, grandparents, wealth, everybody feels at some point like they had an injustice. What ends up happening, especially in the third world, is that the people who have experienced injustice there, they are surrounded by other people who are suffering from the same injustice. So for me, when my father died and I didn't have a dad, that felt like an injustice. But I didn't really have anybody else in my immediate network who could relate to that injustice. And just like, I've had friends who were when they were young. There's not a lot of people in their circle who had the same injustice. So what ends up happening is you're immediately reminded that your injustice is very personal to you.
Yeah, your shame as well. Yeah.
Well, and you might be ashamed of it, but you start to realize that other people don't judge you for it. But when you talk about like poor people in Syria, like impoverished people in Syria, which again, the UK extremist who's converted to ISIS is rare. He's an outlier. But the person who comes from Syria who's radicalized to ISIS is common. And it's because everyone in their community has the same injustice. Once you identify people who have an injustice, all you have to do is direct their injustice at a cause, and then you have an enemy.
Well, this is why Hamas is so successful. I mean, everybody's been oppressed, bombed by the U.S. and Israel, and now they all share that. And then there's one organization that is allowed to exist there because they killed the Palestinian Authority guys off. Hey, you want revenge? We are waiting with open arms to help you get that opportunity.
You're suffering because of Israel. And then, of course, all those ignorant masses are like, yes, we are suffering because of Israel. That's the second step in the ladder, direct against a common enemy. Well, once you have a common enemy, it's very easy to identify a common cause. Well, we are also against Israel. We are Hamas.
Right.
And now that radical, that individual who was just lost, is like, someone sees my plight. The enemy is Israel. The cause against Israel is Hamas. And now all of a sudden, before they even realize it, they're carrying a Hamas flag and wearing a t-shirt, right? And that's the problem with extremism. That's how Al-Qaeda grew so fast. That's how ISIS grew so fast, because where it's similar to your incel example is that they feel so outraged and so marginalized that psychologically they're looking for an explanation. And that psychological explanation comes through the radicalization ladder. And it only takes a few well-trained salespeople to basically create an extremist cause.
Yeah, the recruiters are looking for that kind of thing. It's fascinating. There's this documentary that I don't think anybody has seen, but there's a journalist investigating online ISIS recruiters, and she ends up falling in love with the ISIS recruiter. And the only reason that she didn't run off or end up in deeper, but maybe even run off to Syria and meet this guy, I think she was about to do that, was because he had thought he had hung up a call, and she was recording their calls for her documentary about ISIS recruiting, ironically. And he said something in Arabic, and she was like, that's weird. I wonder what that was. So she was like, I'm going to ask somebody to translate it. And the person was like, he said, hey, Abdullah, I got you another one. These girls are so dumb. You're going to owe me so much money after I'm done with all of them. I'm sending you a wife. She's going to leave soon. And she was like, oh, I'm being played. Super freaking interesting. And so it's easy for us to say, oh, only dumb people fall for this. But when somebody has enough of a baseline on you to figure out where your little holes in your soul are, and they know how to fill them because they've been trained by Iranian intelligence or to do that or whatever, it's a pretty good sell. Absolutely. It's a pretty good pitch.
You only need 15 skilled recruiters to create thousands of volunteer recruits. We're right back to the same topic we had earlier, motivation and manipulation. It's very hard to manipulate people into joining an ideological cause. It's hard to manipulate someone into wearing a bomb vest and killing themselves. It's much easier to motivate them when you connect the fact that their injustice is going to be righted forever, and they can have a legacy impact on every Palestinian or every Sunni Islam or Shia Islam person in the future, right? Like, that's how it works. It's the same. It's as frustrating as it is. And as angry as people get, it is the same way we recruit for the US military. It is the same thing we do here. We fill new recruits' heads with ideology, army of one, Marine strong. We fill people with this ideology. So then this poor child, this 18-year-old.
Is it Army strong? It's the few, the proud, the Marines. I know that much.
Thank you.
Jeez, man, come on. I know you're in the Air Force. You should have this.
But all you're doing is you're reaching into rural America for the most part. You're reaching into rural America, finding these people who don't know where they're going to go and they feel lost. And mom and dad didn't save any money for college.
Manufacturing's gone.
For the most part, again, there's a bell curve, right? And then you're basically telling them they can be part of a larger cause. And then that part of the larger cause is you can come fight for your country and fight for freedom. At the end of the day, what they're saying is, if you die in service to America, that's a life well spent.
That's why they always show those funerals, man. With the salutes and the flag and then the folding of the flag and giving it to the person. It's like I know they show that all the time. In part, it's really impressive, but one of the reasons it's impressive, the whole design is, I think if you maybe I'm paranoid, but I feel like if you backwards rationalize why they make that impressive, it's because...
It's all propaganda. And there isn't a veteran out there who won't tell you they fell for it once, and then when they actually saw their buddies die, they were like, what a waste of a good life. Right? You want to know what's honorable? Having a long, fulfilling, productive life that serves a family and the American dream and all. That's what's a long, productive, successful life. The most honorable thing you can do is live a fulfilling life serving your family and the people of the country by being productive and being a contributing member of society. That's the most honorable thing. Dying in service to your nation is not the most honorable thing. It's just another honorable thing. The challenge is and that's part of why you're seeing a recruitment crisis right now. Because today's generation who has lived with information at their fingertips, they know there's alternatives. And they know that no matter how desperate they might feel, there's still alternatives. And once you sign that paperwork, you're locked in for a long time. Plus, you have a whole generation of people like me, veterans of years past, who now that we have children and we're mentoring teenagers, we're like, you don't have to join the military. When I was a teenager, everybody in my sphere of influence was like, you got to join the military.
Really? And we're going to end up doing, if we haven't already, some program where it's like, you want to move to the United States? You have to join the military. You have to.
We're in a bad place, For recruiting, we are in a bad place.
I'm surprised. It will not surprise me if in 5 years it is every single immigrant who's under the age of, 33, 36, man or woman must, at age 18 or something, serve for 7 years and you get your blue passport after the fact. It's going to be something like that. I mean, we already have to do that for labor.